Hi there. Well, today we're going to make a pair of moccasins out of the dimensions of a person's foot. And what you do to start with is to have the person stand on a piece of Bristol board, and as you can see, draw around the outside of the person's foot, trying to keep the pen straight up and down as much as possible. Okay, there is some flexibility in the moccasin because of the material, the stretchy material, so everything doesn't have to be exact. There's a little bit of leeway. Okay, so once you have the person's foot dimensions, I want you to find the longest part of the template. Okay, so put a little mark at the longest on the toe and a little mark on the longest part of the heel, and then draw a line connecting the two. Then measure between the two longest parts and put a mark there, and then draw a horizontal line across it. And that's going to give us our centers vertically and horizontally. Okay, the next thing that we need to do, and I like to use a T-square for that, and that is from the bottom of our paper or Bristol board, measure up 2 inches, and then from there measure back 3/4 of an inch, and then move back another 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so put your marks there and then connect the marks, forming a horizontal line. Okay, and then once you've done that, we need to determine a center this way that we're going to work with. And generally speaking, from the center of your moccasin, if you were to allow yourself 5 inches, that would be plenty of room to complete the drawing. Okay, so we'll leave it there, and that'll give us lots of room on this side to complete our template. Now, what we're going to do is, I want you to take your template of the person's sole, and from your very top line, move up about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so move up 1/4 of an inch. And make sure that your template is straight up and down. Okay, and what I've got, I've made up some weights that I use for making sure that nothing moves. Okay, so now we've got our template set up. We've got our lines drawn here. Now what I want you to do is to go around the circumference of that drawing. But in this case, I don't want you to use a permanent marker. I want you to use a pen. And what you can do is just put a mark here and then draw around the outside of the template. Okay, oh, we did it on the bottom. And now we'll do it at the top, and that's to put that little mark. Okay, so right about there. Now, what we need to do is we need to take some measurements here. And the measurements are going to consist of our length plus the width at the longest part of the template. So in this case, we're looking at 10 inches. Okay, so 10 inches. And then we're going to add on the width. Now, don't take the middle this time. We want to take the widest part of the moccasin. Okay, and we're looking at about 4 inches on this one. Okay, so we're looking at 14 inches total. Whoops, not 15, but 14. inches. Then what I want you to do is divide that by 10. Okay, and that works out to 1.4 inches. So we'll call it it's going to be about 1 7/16 inches. And if it was a little longer or shorter, no problem. Now, once we have that measurement, your length plus your width divided by 10. Okay, 1.4 inches, and then change it from a decimal into a fraction, 1 7/16 of an inch. Then take yourself a piece of scrap Bristol board and draw yourself a line and space the line so you have a piece of Bristol board that is 1 7/16 wide, and the length doesn't really matter. So we're going to go with 1 7/16 and 1 7/16. Draw our line. And then cut that piece out. This is much longer than it needs to be, so I'm just going to trim a little bit off. Okay, then once you've got your piece, I want you to take it, and we're going to start at the top of the toe, and we're going to go completely around the circumference to about halfway. Okay, I'll show you how to decide when to stop in a minute here. Okay, so all I want you to do is just draw lines, and then move over a little bit, draw another line, another one, and don't worry about how many lines you have. The more, the better. Okay, you can see how we started just to taper in here, and that's the time to stop. Now, the one reason why this design that I use works so well is because it is adaptable to whatever size of foot the person has. The longer the foot, then that means that the longer the piece, the allowance for the toe is going to be, because it's always your length plus your width divided by 10. So if you have a man's, this is more of a lady's size. If you were to have a man, that would have been 11 or maybe even 12, size 12, they would have been much longer, and that means that this piece here would have been much wider. So with this design, it is very adaptable to whatever size of foot that you're working with. So our next thing that we need to do is you find the outside line and go all the way down. We'll just go down to the first mark. And the same with this one. Find your widest part and go all the way down. Now, this is why I had you do it with pencil. You'll notice that when we draw our two lines down, that our template for our sole is no longer in the centers that we want. So what we have to do is to move our sole over to its new position, which is halfway between these two lines. So we're looking at about 6 7/8. So this would be 3 3/8 and about 7/16. 3 7/16. Okay, and I'll just check it here. 3 3/8. Okay, so we'll make it 3 3/8 inches. So there's our new center. So what we have to do is we still have to leave our toe exactly where it is in our original position, but then we have to move this mark over to our new center, which would be right about there. Okay, there's our two new centers. Now, using the permanent marker, draw your line around the outside again. Then take an eraser and erase the pencil. Okay, now we've got our centers. Now let's put our template back on here. And with your permanent marker, we're done with the pencil now, so it'll all be in permanent marker. Draw your center line. Okay, let me just check here. We want to make sure it's perfectly horizontal. Five and 1/16. Okay, I see that has made and changed our measurements here, so we're going to make an adjustment here. Now, when you connect this line, I want you to go further to the outside. Now, depending on this distance here is how high up the ankle our moccasin is going to be. So anywhere from, I would say, 1 inch, between 1 inch and 2 inches up from this line is a good way to have it. I'm going to make this one 1.5 inches. Okay. Then, what needs to be done is you need to measure back from the center line. Now, I have used a variety of different distances, but the further back you make it, the smaller the hole on the top of the moccasin is going to be. So, right now, we've got a hole that is this distance here, but you'll find that when you put the toe on, that it makes it much bigger. So what we need to do is we need to make it a little bit smaller. So I usually take off between 1 and 2 inches. This time I'm going to use I'll use 1.5 again. Then when you connect these two lines, I don't want you to go all the way across. You only have to go this way. Then with something, then what we need to do is go from this corner to this corner with our straight edge. Then with something that has a curve on it, go to this very top intersection and we're going to round that off like that. And this is the start of where our moccasin goes from the lower part to the higher part around your ankle. Then down here from your centers, go a 1/2 inch on each side and draw a line straight down. Okay, so I'm going to just write some measurements on here. 3/4, 3/4, 1 inch, 1.5, 1.5, so we got our 1/4 inch there. I should have brought this one line down a little bit further. There we go. Okay, so this is our basic outline, our basic template for the moccasins that we're going to be making.